Why,
Hello, hello,
hello.
hello.
How are you?
Good. We didn't
Happy,
get your music
happy
going.
soon to be summer.
I know. Crazy, right?
Like, honestly, this year, the first 6 months have flown by. Like it's kind of freaking me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. We're
I
at
know.
the concert series, so you guys get any tickets yet, Michelle?
I'm working on getting my points.
We're
I'm
working
nearly
on it
there.
tonight. Darla, you got
Yeah,
any?
I'm working on
Same.
it.
Oh, I have to understand this point system.
How close are you guys?
I'm
I have one. I have one ticket, but I need two.
yeah, I'm almost to one. And if I
Yeah,
can get to one, I'm going by myself to New Kids on the Block.
Oh, there
amazing.
you go.
You might be able to get a layaway plan. Talk to Shannon.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Put it on point credit or something.
Well, when you buy something with your credit card with points, they give you the option to pay the rest in cash. Do you not get that option?
That's a
So,
good idea.
it's 50,000 points, but you only have 43,000 points. And so, you apply your 43,000 points and then it says, okay, well, you still owe us like $54.62.
Nicole,
Yeah.
Nicole was close. She was at 49,000 or something. So Laura lent her 1,000 points.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah.
See, that's
That's
a
what you
good
gotta
way to
do.
do it. Same kind of concept. That's kind of
Yeah,
fun. I like
yeah.
it. You guys did a yoga series recently, didn't you?
We still are. We've got
Did.
a yurt that we go to in Bodcage, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's very cool. I spoiled Nicole in my office and we did a day at Thermea Spa.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
amazing.
And
Seven with,
it's in Whitby, yeah. Have you guys
yeah.
have you guys been there yet?
I've heard great things.
S-
Same. Yeah.
So there is a part of it and it's called a Kala pool. And it's so heavy with salt water that it's impossible for you to sink. Like just absolutely impossible. And I know of people that have fallen asleep while floating in the water. I was floating in this thing and I went, oh, I should probably, and you feel like you've only been in there 5 minutes, and all of a sudden I get out and I look at the clock and then an hour has gone by that I've just been floating weightlessly in this thing. It's the coolest
Wow.
thing. And the food's amazing there. Like the food's really good. It was one of those where it's like, geez, do I go and get some takeout today?
Don't they have infrared saunas and a whole bunch of stuff?
Yeah, so there's about 10 different things that you can do on the heat side, like anywhere from infrared saunas to wet saunas, to steam baths, all this sort of stuff. And then they have the cold plunge pools like right outside. So you can go
Wow.
and do your aroma sauna, and then you go and get into this 10-degree pool, which is not my scene. I'm like going, oh, sauna, hot tub, great idea.
It's supposed to be good. It's supposed to be good for you, those float plunges.
Yeah, and they tell you like how to do it. Like they actually give you how to do it. They're like, oh, you're gonna go here, you're gonna be in this for this long, then you're gonna go in the cold plunge, and this is how long you're gonna do it, and then this is how long you have to rest in between. So
Hmm.
it's kind of cool, I gotta tell you. But if you can nail it so that it's on a really good day, we went and it was like 23 degrees out, perfectly sunny, not a cloud in the sky. We couldn't have picked a better day if we tried.
Do they serve alcohol?
Yes, they do.
All right, I'm in.
I know. So like honestly, we went in the morning, we did a bunch of treatments, had massages, did the Kala floating thing, did the cold plunge and all that. Then went for lunch, had some margaritas, and then came back out and like did a whole bunch of other stuff. Like it was just a fun day. And
Hmm.
it's
Sounds awesome.
chill. Like it's totally chill. And you feel like you're at a resort. So highly recommend. That's my
I
plug
know.
for Thermea Spa for today. I should be getting a kickback.
We should consider it a firm event there, maybe.
Oh, honestly, lots of fun. Nicole loved it. It was just my way of saying thanks to her for doing such a great job and being so supportive and stuff. So she loved it, and her mom was pretty funny. Her mom kept on going, "Can I come?" No. No, you cannot.
All right. Well, listen, we got 5 o'clock in the dial. I want to welcome our audience members and our speakers tonight. Carrie tells me she's going to be drinking since it's after 5, after hours.
I'm
Welcome to the
considering it. I'm seriously considering it.
And Darla's got mother's little helper, I'm sure, somewhere close by.
I do.
So welcome to Family Law Now After Hours. Today's topic is financial planning and budgeting after separation. Before I introduce our speakers, who are all awesome, they've worked with us on several projects. A couple brief housekeeping matters. Q&A feature is available if you want to submit your questions. Please send us your questions. We love answering audience questions. Purpose of tonight's series is to provide general information. So if we're having a discussion with a family member or friend about a legal issue, we would, that's sort of what we're doing tonight, as opposed to providing tailored legal advice. Stay tuned at the end of tonight's program. We're going to give you information on how you can potentially arrange a 20-minute free consultation with one of our lawyers. But let's get at it. Carrie Heinzl is founder of Fairmore Financial Solutions, fact-based financial analysis, settlement insights for couples going through separation and divorce. Carrie is also the president of the Ontario Association of Collaborative Professionals. I think we need to do a little curtsy, right? When you walk
I'll
into the
accept
room,
that.
everybody rise like a jet or something. Super, super fortunate to have Carrie with us tonight, who brings a wealth of experience. Darla, who is our senior managing law clerk at our firm, mentors and coaches other law clerks. She also directly works with clients, mainly my clients and other clients, helping with financial statements and net family property statements, preparing pleadings and working with the clients and the lawyers to help them through the court process. Michelle Snoek is our star junior law clerk, and everybody loves Michelle. She's got a smile that'll light up a room. She's been doing this work since 2014, working with our firm since 2017, committed to providing compassionate assistance to clients, ensuring their needs are met throughout their legal process. So there's the intros, really an all-star team. I'm Russell Alexander. I'm one of the lawyers here at the firm. You probably see me every Tuesday night and the occasional Wednesday. Great to have you with us. So we've got a number of topics that we're going to cover. It's going to be a discussion format. One of us will lead us through the initial portions. I'll just get us started with understanding post-separation finances and adapting to a new budget. This is really Carrie's cup of tea, but I'll just tell you what I think. First thing, what you need to do is assess your current financial situation. So you're living together as a couple with one house, one budget, maybe one car, one mortgage payment, one rent payment. Now you're separated. So you have almost double the expenses, maybe more than double. 2 mortgage payments, 2 car payments, 2 grocery payments. Could be overwhelming. One of the first steps we start to coach our clients about is separating your finances, getting your own credit card, your own bank account, having your paycheck go into your own bank account, getting that independence back. Review your legal agreements. So you're going to have an obligation, a covenant to the bank to continue to pay the mortgage that's on your current home, or the lease if you're renting. You may be signed on to credit card agreements for joint credit cards. You want to see what your liabilities are. Then you want to track your spending. And most people don't do this during the course of the relationship. Oftentimes, one spouse will handle all the finances and the other spouse dumps their paycheck into the joint account. They don't know what their expenses are. They get paid. So you want to start tracking your expenses and finding out where your money's going. Set financial goals for yourself. Where do you want to be 30 days from now, 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10, 20 years from now? Carrie's going to help you with that long-term planning. Adjust your lifestyle. This is hard for a lot of people when they're used to just going out for dinners, driving the newest, least version of whatever car they like. And now they may have to get a used car. They may have to downsize their home. They may have to rent. So you need to start thinking about adjusting your lifestyle. And everybody on the screen here is going to help you create a budget or a plan. So if you're going to court, you create a financial statement. Carrie will help you create a detailed budget, maybe go through your credit report, take a look at your rating, what's out there, what you can cut, and what is essential. Oftentimes, clients, we encourage them to build an emergency fund. So money for a rainy day. And usually when they're going through a separation, it's a thunderstorm, right? Everything's happening at once. Their friends are changing, their identity's changing, their family's changing, their parenting time's changing, their home's changing, they may be changing communities. It's really, everything comes in all at once. So you want to also consider your taxes. We're going to talk about support, tax consequences throughout the night. Most importantly, seek professional help. Talk to Carrie, talk to one of the clerks on the screen, call my office, and get an understanding as to how you can do this. It can be overwhelming. A lot of people don't even understand how to read their tax return and notice of assessment. And, or there will be tax credits that are available that you may not be getting the benefit of, or you may be receiving or paying support, and there could be a tax consequence to that. There could be child tax benefits. You want to flush all those out, stay organized. Most importantly, communicate with your spouse or ex-spouse. Have open communication about the finances. You don't want somebody saying they're going to pay the mortgage and then realizing 6 months later that the mortgage is unpaid and now your credit rating's been affected. Or you go to use the credit card and it doesn't work because somebody's maxed it out or maxed out the line of credit. Unfortunately, that happens quite often. You know, first somebody's feels wrong during the course of the relationship or angry because there's been infidelity. They go out and clear out the line of credit and they cancel the credit cards, and it's a form of retribution or control. So if you have that open line of communication, that's something that you want to certainly be mindful of. So that's sort of a quick snapshot of the new financial reality you're going to be facing. But let's do a quick roundtable. Darla, what would you add to that?
I think that just from a standpoint of emotional support, you're going to need to reach out to your friends and family and try to, you know, it's going to be an emotional time, and don't be afraid to reach out to family and friends to support you in that regard.
Yeah. Michelle?
Yeah, I would kind of go on top of that as well. I know the financial aspect of separation can be very overwhelming for a lot of parties. So relying on family and friends, even to assist you with going to the bank and figuring out your accounts and your financial situation. I have a lot of clients that come to me and say they don't have any idea what the other spouse was doing with their finances. So just to have someone to back you with that and walk you through that, it can be us or it can be a friend or a family member as well.
And that's normal, right? Lots of relationships. For 20 years, people have no idea. They're living a great life and they don't care. The lights are still on, the groceries are coming in. You know, in terms of, just talk about this briefly, a lot of clients ask me, how are we going to finance this? You know, if you're the person without an income or access to credit, oftentimes they turn to friends or family members. You know, the parents will step in and help them with their legal fees. Or maybe we will agree we were going to take $25,000 from the line of credit to pay for the process, whether it's collaborative practice or litigation. We know that aspect is covered, and you're still going to have a professional on your side. But Carrie, I know you could talk about this for a day, but new financial reality, what else do you want to add on this one topic before we move into financial statements?
I think what everybody needs to understand is that fear is normal. And that's the biggest part of that is there's a fear of the unknown. There's a fear of, am I going to be okay? There is a fear of, am I going to make the right decision? Am I going to screw this up financially? It's fear, and you're both experiencing it. Sometimes that comes out in bravado for people. Sometimes it may come out as they're saying they're going to do X, Y, and Z. It's okay. It's all fear-based, and that's why you want a good team behind you to help ease those fears and move things forward for you where you can understand each step of the way. Having a good team is the answer, and those lines of communication that you were talking about earlier, Russ, it's invaluable. You need open communication with your team. when we can get it with your spouse, even if it's through the team that we increase that communication, you got to use it.
And I see that a lot, right? We see spouses, either our clients or the other spouse, stick their head in the sand, hope it goes away. The fear just freezes them up. They
100%.
physically cannot deal with the issue and the finances. It's just overwhelming, especially if you've never done it before. And we come across lots of financial statements, right? Business financial statements. We're talking about a budget for the home. The court has specific rules. A lot of people have no idea what a financial statement is until they go through a separation. So Darla, help us through this. What do we need to know about the different forms and the different financial statements parents are going to see or couples are going to see when they go through a separation and divorce?
Definitely. So a financial statement provides for an overview of the family's financial situation. It is a sworn document, so everything that you're adding to your financial statement must be accurate. You're swearing that document to be true. Rule 13 of the family law rules also requires that parties, clients, provide sworn financial statements and the supporting disclosure. And I know Michelle's going to touch on the requirements of disclosure in a little bit, but the financial statement itself is in two forms. So the form 13.1 is property and support purposes and is broken down into sections that include your income and expenses, which are current values, your assets and debts and liabilities, which include date of marriage values, date of separation or valuation date values, and current values. And then if there's any excluded property, that will also be taken into consideration, such as gifts or inheritances. So we're here to help you work through the financial statement and prepare it. And again, that's with respect to property and support purposes. There is a simplified financial statement form 13, which is support only. And if you have already resolved property issues, or perhaps you don't have any property issues, you're just dealing with the issues of support, then you would complete the form 13. Again, it's broken down into sections for income, expenses, assets, and debts and liabilities, but those particular values are all current day values. So I have the disclosure aspect, I think Michelle was going to elaborate on, but again, the two have to work hand in hand. So we're here to help you work through the financial statement and then compile the disclosure that's needed to support that financial statement.
Just before we get to disclosure, what do you do with the client, or what do you say? You know, I'm not going to put this on my financial statement. I'm going to mislead the person or basically commit a fraud and swear a false financial statement. Are there any consequences for that person?
Well, I would think court costs if the judge were to determine that you had falsified a sworn document, there would absolutely be consequences in that regard. A party can also have a separation agreement set aside if they've signed that separation agreement and the financial statement or disclosure was not accurately produced, then that would give the other party the ability to perhaps have the separation agreement set aside.
So what I hear you saying is put your cards on the table, no mischief, just tell us what we need to put in the financial statement and don't exclude anything.
Correct.
Can I just add one thing?
Including the cash under the bed sheet, right? Or in the box closet.
Yes.
I just want to add one thing to that. Most people that do their own financial statements without the help of professionals doing it, y'all tend to lie the wrong way. So just so you know, lying on your financial statement, most of you don't do it the right way. You screw it up and you end up causing yourself more problems and more fees. Your fees will increase dramatically if you decide to lie or falsify or screw up your financial statements deliberately. It is not a good look, and it will cost you a whole lot more to get it undone.
And your pleadings could be struck, or you'll lose credibility with the court. You may have important things you want to say about parenting, but because you lied on your financial statement, the judge is not going to accept your evidence on parenting because you're untrustworthy.
Right.
So important aspect of that. Thank you, Darla and Carrie. So Michelle, financial disclosure. What the hell are we talking about? Nobody. This is only language lawyers and law clerks and financial professionals use. What is financial disclosure and why is it important?
Yeah, so it's a big piece. Obviously, the family law rules, like we talked about, are quite clear in the requirements to provide financial disclosure. It's a requirement, prerequisite for all settlement files in family law. It has to be done, and it's a lot of work. So I get clients often when we start out a file, we'll send them a draft financial statement, and and we'll send them a list of disclosure that's required, and I'll get a lot of comments back of, like, this is really simple, we're agreeable, like, we just want a quick agreement. Do I really have to do a financial statement? Why do I have to provide this? I don't have a lot of assets.
Don't you love the napkin, and they've kind of written out some
Yeah.
numbers there, the value of the home, and maybe the pension's worth something like this.
Exactly. And like, to be fair,
And
like,
it's
they
got a
don't
coffee
answer.
stain on it, right? Don't forget the
Yeah.
coffee stain.
Yeah, exactly. So we're here to explain to them the reasons why we do financial disclosure. And we've already kind of touched on that, why it's important to be direct with our disclosure and fulsome. We don't want to be hiding anything. If you're caught hiding something, it goes to your credibility. It also affects the validity of any agreement or order. So when we start out an agreement, a financial statement, we work hand in hand with the clients, walk them through often a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails back and forth with questions and answers to get that done. So with the 13.1, as Darla talked about, what comes into question is your date of marriage, your date of separation, and present day assets and debts. So we're going to ask you for your bank statements. That includes checking, savings, TFSAs, RSPs, investments, etc. Debts includes your mortgages, your lines of credit, your auto loan, any credit card in your name. And with credit cards especially, I get clients who will say, well, I don't have any balance. I pay it off. Still provide that statement. We're still going to give a balance as close to your dates there. So obviously sometimes we don't have balances on an exact date of separation, but we try and get as close to and not past those dates. We also take into effect your income. So we're going to talk about your current income, whether you're employed or self-employed or unemployed. We're going to give updated information on that. So whether it's a pay stub, we're also going to include your last 3 years of income tax returns, your notices of assessment, corporate tax returns. If clients don't have their tax returns done, which is sometimes a common issue, we'll address that right off the bat with them. And if it's not done, we'll encourage them to get their income tax returns filed. If they just don't have their notices of assessment in their possession, for instance, if they're not in the home and that's where their physical paperwork is, they can sign up for a MyCRA account and download the forms there, or we'll give them a phone number to call the CRA and get printouts sent to them. That takes time though, so we do ask for clients to do that right off the bat because it can take a couple of weeks to get anything delivered to you in the mail. Yeah, we address life insurance policies. We'll value your pension, which is also a time-consuming matter, so we'll get that addressed right off the bat. And we'll look into appraisals of vehicles and properties as well. Generally with vehicles, we'll use Canada Black Book, which is a great website. It gives appraisals of approximate appraisals of vehicles that we can use and rely on. And then for your property, sometimes we'll recommend clients reach out to a real estate agent and get a comparative and market appraisal on their property to start. And if we need to get a certified appraisal of the property, that's another step in the way. For financial statements for just the form 13, that's, as Darla said, the more simplified form. So we're not looking at your date of marriage or your date of separation at that point. It's just present values. That one is a little quicker to do, but obviously the income section can take some time too. And then once we've taken that information, you send it all to me, send it all to Darla, the lawyer on your file, and we'll review it in detail. We'll go through the form, we'll input the values. The form handles all the calculations for us, which is handy. And then we'll assemble your disclosure brief and make sure that everything's in line and put together. We'll square your financial statement with you and generally then arrange for a mutual exchange date with the other side. A mutual exchange date is not required, but in my experience, I find it's handy to kind of push along progress in the file when we have reluctant other sides. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Generally, once we finalize that disclosure and that financial statement, we move over to the net family property statement.
But in terms of disclosure, there's bookends, right? So you have the client who brings in the banker's box, drops it. You say, you take care of everything. Here's it, type it up nicey nice, and here it is. But then we have more sophisticated clients who've done their own, have prepared it. It may be good, but it may not comply with the rules. And you tweak it to make sure it's the format that the court wants. And just one more thing I want to add. There's also collaborative practice. So oftentimes when we do things to resolve matters collaboratively outside the court system, focused on goals and interests, we'll bring in a financial neutral such as Carrie. And instead of having each lawyer's office prepare a financial statement and then get on this merry-go-round of you haven't produced this or I'm missing that, we give it to Carrie. She produces one document, one brief for both parties. And it's one point of contact. So it's a way to save time and expense. And that's quite common, right, Carrie, in your experience?
Oh, very common. And we're actually seeing it more and more with litigation matters too, where we'll actually have a judge saying, you're going to hire a financial neutral and you're going to give me one agreed statement of fact rather than this bickering back and forth. So we've been appointed on a number of files that we have to go and do it. And we get to chase both sides. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging.
And if we're jammed up, like if Michelle or Darla and I are on a trial and we can't deal with a handful of files because we're working on one file every day for 1, 2, 3 weeks, we may bring Carrie in and say, here, as sort of a subcontractor, prep this for us. We're on a deadline. So it's good to work as a team when you're dealing with disclosure as well.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I do want to say about disclosure is we always want to be careful. Things get missed by clients, not because they are being deliberate. I've been doing this work for about 15 years, and I've only had 2 clients that deliberately hid money in the past. And most clients just go, oh my gosh, I forgot. I totally forgot I had that TFSA or that account or whatever. So, a little bit of leniency also because people do forget. So that's something just to keep in mind as you go through this. It's not always deliberate or being malicious.
No, I find that often we have to be very clear and direct with our questions. Because like you said, clients forget. They have an account that was open on date of marriage but closed on date of separation, or open on date of separation and closed now. So it's very easy to forget those accounts for sure.
Right. And some lawyers, unfortunately, use the disclosure as a litigation tactic to try to wear the other client down, increase their legal fees. So that's the role of the law clerk, to identify that, and the lawyer to respond to that. So we get somebody on a fishing expedition just trying to crank the file, right? Generate fees or cause delay. We'll call them out, right? If you're making a disclosure request for a bank account in 1995 or a tax return, and the parties didn't start living together in 2005, you have to say, what's the relevance? How is this going to inform the outcome of any settlement? And if it's clearly not relevant, ultimately, the court's view is full disclosure of everything. But if it's outside of any issue that's relevant before the court, I would take that to the case management judge and say, I'm not producing this unless we have a good reason to. Otherwise, it's just an unnecessary expense. But you can see I'm getting worked up about financial disclosure. It's not even possible.
We do that every day.
So what are some tips for the clients working with the clerks in disclosure, Michelle? What's your advice for our audience?
Tips and tricks. I mean, yeah, like we kind of touched on, it can be very overwhelming for clients. They don't know where they stand financially, or even what accounts they have in their name. I often tell clients, just go into your branch, talk to your institution. If there's an account in your name, they can provide you with those statements, whether it's just a profile summary to start. We go from there, and we just work with the clients and get that done. There's a lot of disclosure to go through. So yeah, if you don't know of your financial situation, contact your banks directly, contact the CRA directly, and get it figured out. But obviously, ask your family law professional, and they
Don't
will.
stress, don't stress over it.
Don't
It-
stress.
It's common.
Exactly.
If you don't have it, you can give us a direction, we'll get
Yeah.
the information.
Yes.
And we'll take care of it
Yeah.
for us. If you can't get it, tell us. We're gonna help you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Darla, tips on working with the clerk?
Yes, I think what's key too is the date of separation valuation date statements, because that is ultimately the values we're going to use when we prepare your net family property statement. So I feel that clients tend to gravitate towards the current statements, but the real important ones are the date of separation statements. And Michelle's right, like you can go into your bank if you're having trouble. I know sometimes it's very hard to navigate online, or maybe perhaps you just have mobile banking. Then, you know, take the time to go to your branch and they can print those statements out for you relatively quickly.
And if it's real property, right, we can talk to the real estate lawyer who closed the deal and get a copy of their report. They'll have a detailed accounting of the trust funds, and you can calculate the equity in that asset. So there's ways to get that information. Let's talk about net family property statements. Again, a language that only lawyers and professionals would refer to. What is a net family property statement, and why are they important, Darla? We know, but let's just say, you know, Uncle Joe sitting on the couch watching baseball in between beers. How are you going to explain a net family property statement to him?
Well, unlike a financial statement where each individual client will complete their own financial statement, which also will include joint assets and debts in addition to their own assets and debts throughout the marriage, the net family property statement kind of compiles the two parties' assets and debts as of date of separation or valuation date. And it will take into account, the long and short of it is, it takes the assets, subtracts the debts, takes into consideration if there were any date of marriage assets or debts or otherwise excluded property, and it will calculate the net family property equalization, which ultimately should show if one party is to then pay the other party an equalization payment. Some people would say, well, everything is just 50-50 and, you know, we're just going to call it a day. Well, you have to take into account if parties have RSPs or if they have other investment accounts, because it wouldn't be fair for one of the parties to come away financially in an advantage where the other party doesn't have the RSP in their name or investments in their name if those funds were in fact acquired during the marriage. So snapshot of both parties' assets and debts, taking into account the date of marriage, assets and debts, and calculating what one party is then required to pay to the other so that it comes out relatively 50-50.
Got it. So, and Carrie, I know you work with NFP statements all the time. Anything you want to add to this?
You know, it's just keeping in mind that what we're measuring is the growth of your wealth from the day you got married until the day you separated. So that's what we're measuring, is that wealth growth. And that's so how did you start out? How did you end? And then If husband has $100 and wife has 0, husband's gonna give wife 50 of it, and that's an equalization payment. So you're both walking away with an equal amount of growth in wealth from the marriage.
Yeah. What I find probably one of the most powerful tools is the NFP comparison sheet. So this is a document where we have wife's NFP, husband's NFP. We compare the numbers line by line. Very quickly, you're going to identify where the numbers are off. So at the bottom, you may be off by 100,000, but when you go through the comparison, you can see that there's 7 items that constitute that spread. So what I do is I focus in on those 7. What documents do we have to support that the value of the BMW and the data separation was X? Or the cottage, is it a real estate opinion? Is it parties agreeing to it? Is it a market appraisal? And really take a close look at what the evidence is. And once you start to dig down, you realize that $100,000 usually drops down to $10,000, $15,000 fairly quickly, because the documents will usually tell the story. They're pretty much irrefutable. If you have a bank statement saying this was the balance on my date of marriage, that's pretty compelling evidence. So now you're getting close to settling your case because you've done this comparison. So I find that effective. But let's talk about the fun stuff, spousal and child support. So you're doing financial planning. You're either receiving or paying child or spousal support, potentially. If you're not, you can go grab a cup of coffee and come back in a couple of minutes. But it's important because just because you're not paying it now, you might be in the future. So a couple quick points, and then I'm going to open it up to the floor. For the payer and the recipient, understand your obligations and understand your entitlement. Review the order of the separation agreement and get a clear understanding as to what's coming in. Be aware of any conditions that might change that amount, right? Child support is usually reviewed every year. Spousal support may have a review mechanism or may taper off. It may have a shelf life. It may end after a certain period of time. Could be provisions if you repartner or remarry that would end or trigger a review. So you want to think about that. The budget for the support payments, you're going to want to build that into your budget, especially if you're looking to get financing, either as a payer or recipient that could qualify you or disqualify you for a mortgage. So you want to think about that. Start thinking about adjusting your lifestyle. Your income's going to be different. Perhaps your household income is going to be different, even with the support payment. So you may want to make change of accommodations, transportation, eat in more often, lots of lifestyle changes that you want to consider. Tax implications. Generally speaking, spousal support is taxable income to the recipient, deductible to the payer. Child support does not have tax consequence. Usually you can use a law clerk or Carrie to come up with a detailed analysis. The program we use is the spousal support advisory guidelines. Tell you how much you have in your pocket after the taxes are paid. And it could be significant. If you got child tax credits coming in as well, that could move the dial. May put more money in your pocket, might reduce your support obligation though, right? Your spousal support obligation because your income's changed. Lots to consider. We've got live events just talking about child and spousal support. We spent an hour talking about this issue. So if I'm running through it quickly, it's for a reason. You can get more information somewhere else. So tax implications, plan for the changes. So if there's a retirement, if there's a child that's going to no longer be entitled to child support because they're done school, or maybe they're going to post-secondary education, right? That's a whole nother can of worms you're going to have to take a look at. Oh, so much to cover. Start working on building your financial independence, right? This is tough, right? If you've been a stay-at-home parent for 25 years and you're entitled to a certain lifestyle, depending on your age, your ability to work, your skill set, whether you suffer a disability, there's an expectation you should become independent, which could mean getting back into the workforce. having income imputed to you, maybe going back to school to develop a trade or skill set. You might want to start thinking about that. As always, communicate and cooperate with your spouse, especially if there's changes. Put it in writing. So if there is a termination, or there should be a termination, and the support continues, perhaps it's being enforced by the government agency, Family Responsibility Office. If there's no agreement, you can then ask the support to go back in time and make a retroactive adjustment if you have proof that you put the party on notice. Seek professional help. Talk to Carrie, talk to one of the clerks that you see on the screen. We're here to help. Stay informed. So all these factors that can change your support order, keep in mind, little Johnny's 17, my child support might end in a year. I got to start preparing for that. Or I'm going to be retiring. I need to inform my partner my income's dropping. You may have already divided your pension as part of the property division, so that would be a double dip. You can't collect the money twice, or you shouldn't. There are some exceptions. So keep informed of these changes. And we often write about cases that change obligations as well. So look for our newsletter or even read the newspaper or journals to find out what's changing in the law to inform your decision. So that's child and spousal support in 5 minutes or less. I probably went longer than 5 minutes. But let's hear what the smart people are thinking. Michelle, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I feel like you covered it all.
Okay.
You got a good summary there. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
stop. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear anymore. Darla, Carrie, you want to jump in on this?
I would just add, because I know we've encountered this, Russ. If there is an obligation for spousal support, you might want to consider a lump sum payment. It gives you a clean break. We can definitely, as Russ mentioned, in the support calculations, which we refer to as SAGs, we can calculate what the lump sum payment may be, and that might give you something to think about as well, like to have a clean break, pay it out, or accept that lump sum payment, so that then there wouldn't be an issue down the road if you decided to remarry or repartner. Then you've already received that lump sum payment.
Lots of advantages. No tax consequence to lump sum payments. The payer may lose his or her job, so now you've been prepaid. Maybe you need the capital to buy a new home. So that's a great tip, Darla. Thank you for that. Carrie, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, there's actually benefits to both sides, to the payor and to the payee of doing a lump sum. One of the things is mortgaging. So a lot of people don't realize that when you are paying specifically spousal support, it can have a real negative implication to your application for a mortgage, because it's reducing your income. It's not, you may say, I make $200,000 a year, but you're paying out X number of dollars. So you actually don't make 200,000 anymore, you're making less. So doing a lump sum payout can absolutely help you with that financing. On the other side, to the person receiving, getting spousal support on a monthly basis means that they have a higher income now, so they may qualify for more. But if you're getting a lump sum, it means you may have more to put down, so you don't need to be worrying about it, and you can qualify under your own income. You have to weigh it on a case-by-case basis. It's not a blanket across for everybody. I also think it's important for people to remember that when you're getting support of any kind, whether it be child support, spousal support, or everything, I like to tell clients, don't depend on this as your income or as dependent payments. Look at this as gravy payments, not as this is my life source. The reason is that you are completely dependent on the control of somebody else making those payments on time, and that they're being full payments and that they're being honorable in doing those. It doesn't always work out that way for everybody. We have great support payers and we have not so great support payers. Most people kind of know where they're going to fall in that, unfortunately. But the rule of thumb is child support is always the first thing that gets paid. Special and extraordinary expenses, spousal support is last on the list. Your kids come first, no matter what. And there is an inverse relationship between child support and spousal support. As child support goes down, because your kids are going off to university or they're aging out completely, spousal support has a tendency to go up. So there is that relationship between the two of them, and it's something to keep in mind.
You can only cut that pie up so many ways, right?
Only so many ways. And what we want to do is manage cash flow and we want to manage wealth. So we want to make sure we're taking that into consideration.
One quick tip, and then we're going to get to some audience questions, and then we're going to go to retirement planning. But first of all, get legal advice, whether you're recently separated or you've been separated for a while, especially if you have one of these support claims. If you wait 2, 3, 4 years and then make your support claim, the judge may not go retroactive, right? The judge may say, okay, well, we'll start your support claim as of today's date. If you get the advice, you can put the other spouse on notice, say, I'm seeking this support claim, I want to review it. That gives you a bit of wiggle room to say, okay, judge, go back in time. I want to catch up on the 3 years that the person did not pay support. So, and if you're concerned about it, maybe commence an action earlier and get a negotiated settlement or a court order. If you wait, there's delay, there's a chance you're not going to catch up. So you want to talk to a lawyer to get specific advice with respect to your family. A couple great questions coming in. Please keep the questions coming. Here's one for you, Carrie. What about when you don't have documents from the date of marriage 20 years ago? Good question.
That's a great question. Actually, it depends on what it is you don't have. So there are some things that you can still get. One of the best things that you always get are your RRSPs, mainly because the government keeps records on all of that stuff. So you can go ahead and request from the CRA all of your contributions and withdrawals from your retirement assets from the date you started making them until your date of marriage is one way of asking for. I always say get it from that time to 2 years after you were already married. So that comes into a nice big piece that we get. And we can calculate what the principal was that was included. So normally if I only have a principal and no interest because we just don't have the documents, and by the way, that's common that they don't have the documents. What we can do is we can either do an agreed upon return. So somebody might say, let's do an agreed upon return of 2% over the course of the marriage. Other people will say, nah, we'll just leave that off, but we won't add a tax liability to it because those two things would probably balance each other out at the end of the day. But tax returns you can use, you get some investment stuff you can also get because there's a different requirement to keep that. Bank accounts, almost impossible because, well, there's a retention period of 7 years and most banks don't keep them longer than that. Sometimes you can get lucky though and ask them to, if you go through head office, they do keep some historical records. Sometimes you get lucky. Always ask. That's my thing is the worst thing they're going to say to you is no. But if you don't ask, you're never going to get house stuff. We can get your house stuff. So we can pull it from the conveyance office. We can find out exactly when you owned your house and we can pull all the instruments about your house, all of that sort of stuff we can get. Your basic bank accounts. A lot of clients, what they do is go, yeah, I think I had $5,000 in my bank account. Yeah, I think I had the same, and they call it a wash. Or you both came into the relationship poor as church mice, and so we're both going to say we had nothing. And that's
When
so.
you say instrument, you say you do title search. Okay, you bought this house in 1980. $20,000 mortgage was registered. We can tell from historical data houses were selling for 100 grand. And reverse engineer what the number is, right?
Yeah, we can find out exactly what you paid for it. Like the conveyance will tell us exactly what you paid for it. We just pull the documents, we pull the mortgage that was on it. It'll tell us.
Let's say you bought it in 1980, but you started living in 1985. You can get a pretty good sense in terms of the equity position and what the mortgage would have been paid down.
Absolutely.
The other tip I would have, sometimes it's an old boat or car, and there's you get a picture of the car, right? Here's the car I had when we started dating. There's some evidence. It's not perfect, right? There may have been a loan on it, and I'm finding most people exercise their common sense to say, oh yeah, he did bring that boat into the relationship. they're selling for about 5-10 grand, right? That it gives you some room to come down with a number. One more quick question, then we're gonna move on. I'll give this to Darla or Michelle. Does it save time, money when clients prepare disclosure themselves or do mistakes, corrections, mitigate any potential savings? I've got my opinion, but
Same.
Darla, what do you think?
I think it's really more cost effective for us just to do it. We cross-reference those statements when we're doing the financial statement, and then we can compile the financial disclosure brief at the same time that we're finalizing the financial statement. If clients, and you know, I understand people like to present their own story, but from our point of view, I think it is more cost effective just to kind of let us do it right from beginning to end.
Michelle?
Yeah, I would agree. I've actually started moving towards, rather than the clients completing the bank account and debt section of the financial statement, just giving me the bank statements themselves. And then I put in the numbers. Because like Darla said, we're going to review the numbers regardless of whether or not you give us the statement and the completed financial statement. We're still going to cross-reference. So you're still paying for our time to review it regardless. So as a cost savings to you, just give us the statements and we'll find those numbers for you. Because we know exactly what we're looking for.
I had a client who was an engineer, and Darla might remember this client, and we'd prepare the NFP and all the statements for him. He'd go create his own NFP and do his own form, like that's the way he processed. And he insisted I present his NFP to the other lawyer. I say, no, there's a form we got to use that the rule prescribes. He goes, no, I spent a week preparing this. I said, okay, I'll present it, but we're not going to use it. So I presented, and the lawyer looks at it like this, right, picks it up and just drops it. I'm not looking at that, right? It was too much work, right? It could have been great and beautiful, but it's not the information we need to calculate property pursuant to the Family Law Act. So thanks for those tips.
And another thing that we do now when we do financial disclosure briefs is we bookmark and and hyperlink everything. Yeah. And unless we have a client that is extremely tech savvy, they're not going to do that. And, it saves time when we can just click on that list in the index, click on the document that's listed, and it bounces us directly to that actual document.
The court
requires it. The court does require that.
So what I hear you guys saying, let us do the work. It's going to be more efficient in the long run, but it was a great question. Keep the questions coming in.
Good question.
Absolutely.
Carrie, you get the fun stuff. I hope you've got a bottle of wine into you by now. Retirement planning, adjusting your long-term savings plan.
Yeah.
I make fun of this, but this is important, right? Because especially if you're an older person going through, great divorce, you might be losing half your assets. You might not be retiring when you plan to retire. You might have to work longer. So what do we need to know?
Honestly, with this one, I look at this and say, it really depends on how old you are when you're going through this. If you're a client and you're in your 30s, you have a pension and you have to do an equalization, I say go ahead and use your pension because it's a great way to do it. And you have so much working time on the highway in front of you that you're never going to notice that this payment ever came out of your pension. So not a bad strategy for you to go so that you can keep the here and now money in your pocket and you can do this. Also great for the other person because it kickstarts, if they don't have a lot of retirement asset, it kicks their retirement savings. Not a bad way to do it if you're in your 30s and even in your younger 40s, I would say as well. When you start separating in your 50s, you're in a little bit of a different situation. You may have $1 million to $2 million pension that you're now dealing with, or substantial savings into your RSPs. You may be an executive that has a supplemental retirement plan on top of that. So it becomes a little bit more of a dance and a little bit more creative when we're coming into settlement as to how we want to deal with those plans. So is it now worth it to keep that plan in place and have the other person keep the home? Does it make sense to split it because now you're going to split out cash because you're going to sell the house? And doing that, again, it's really going to be dependent because I have people going, well, I have a pension, it's worth $1 million. If we split that at source and we're selling the house, they're technically freeing up $500,000 of that in cash now rather than having it locked up that they can't use it. So it's about what is going to work best for both parties. When we get into clients that are retired, so we're the true gray divorces, we are dividing up their retirement assets. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that if you were going in with a pension and you're in what's called in pay, meaning you are receiving your pension on a monthly basis, first of all, you can't turn it off. Once you start it, the tap's on, it doesn't turn off again. But what ends up happening is that you designated while you were married a survivor. So your spouse would be your survivor, and it can never, ever be changed under any circumstances. So that person now is, if you designated that upon your passing, they're getting 67 or 75% of your pension. They will get that even after you've divorced. They will still get that after you've passed. It's called a survivor's pension. Part of that shows up, not the whole of it, but part of it does show up for the net family property statement and for financial statements. But it's something to understand that that can happen. So if you're about to divorce, or you know you're going to divorce, but you want to retire, you might want to think about, what am I putting down on this? If you've been retired for 10 years, you're not changing it. It can't be changed. So you're going to stay with it that way. But
those survivor benefits can really create some hardship, because if you think about it, it becomes an asset. I had a case, wife had OPG pension, my client designated survivor benefit. Wife had $400,000 or $500,000 notionally as a benefit. That goes on her property statement today, even though it's not an asset she can access. Wiped out her equity in the matrimonial home. And it's a benefit she's not going to get until retirement. So
it's not a benefit she's going to get until the person passes.
I know, but it's not like I can now use that benefit to buy a house tomorrow. Yeah. So it's really tricky stuff. You want to talk to a lawyer about it. I know some audience may be thinking about this. CPP credits, what do we do, Carrie?
It's out of our hands. CPP credits are out of our hands. There is a form you can fill out. You really only have 3 years post-separation to do this. You shouldn't be doing it 10 years after your separation. Most likely they'll go, no, thank you. It is the government after all. But do it right away. It is out of our hands. We don't do it. You fill out the form, you submit it to the CRA, and they divide the credits. It's not dollar values that they are dividing your credits. So if you work full-time and you were making 100,000 a year and your spouse worked full-time and they were making the same, most likely you have the same credits. It's not going to make a big deal to you, but it is something that you can apply for. Anybody that was a stay-at-home mom, just realize that you are being assigned credits, but you do have to declare to the CRA that you were a stay-at-home parent. So
what Carrie's saying is, get the form in. If you can't figure it out, call one of us, we'll help you. Also, don't expect your lawyer to fix the CPP credit division in the separation agreement, because we don't have the ability to do so.
You have no authority.
You have to follow this process. Great tip. One last thing on pensions. Who thought I could get excited about pensions? But what I really love you doing, Carrie, when we're in a collaborative setting, you prepare scenarios, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. If we divide this pension, if you accept this support, this is what you're looking at in terms of a budget 10 years from now, which I think is really helpful, especially for older couples when they don't have that job security, or they might not have a skill set that they can return to the workforce. Give us a snapshot in terms of those services you provide.
So what we'll do is we can actually put in, we have software that will allow us to say, okay, if you take this kind of settlement, this is what it projects you to look like. So, and what we do is we say, if nothing changes. So that's the first thing we always want to do is if nothing changes in your life. If you decide I'm never going to make any more money than this, or I'm never going to work, or I'm going to retire tomorrow, or whatever, this is what it looks like. This is how long it takes you to run out of money. And then we can do, well, what happens if you're a stay-at-home parent and you get a job and you're making minimum wage? How much further does that take you out? If you're now decided, no, I'm gonna go back to school, I'm gonna now get this, and I think I'm gonna be making 100,000 a year, that changes the game again. So we can show those different things, and we find it's really motivating for some clients that are going, I don't know what to do. I don't know how much money I need to make. I don't know how I want to do this. And it's positive that way. One of the things that I find with clients is they think the word budget is a dirty word. The budget is your best friend. Trust me on this. It's a total pain in the arse for the first 3 months. It is a total pain in the arse. Hate it. After that, you go, oh, I'm in love with you. And you start saying things like, no, that's my budget says I can't. And then it's a great way to get out of stuff, especially when your kids want money. So you got to figure out where you can get the end, right?
Let's go back to our audience. Michelle or Darla, who wants this one? Average cost to prepare these documents. I assume we're talking about financial statements and that family property statements, the things you guys have been talking about. What can clients expect? I think it
It's
depends on
tricky.
Honestly, there's only 2 words that apply here. It depends.
It
How
depends
many
on the
assets you
client.
have, how complicated it is
Yeah.
if you're doing business valuations.
Are we doing a 13 or 13.1 or like,
Yes.
yeah, how many assets, how many debts? We have clients who come in and they have 3 RSPs, they have investments, they have TFSAs, they have it all. And the investments, take a lot of work to value. So it depends. You're right, Carrie. It depends.
You also have to get a pension administrator to value the pension, and there's a fee associated with that, right? So that you're paying money to a third party.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a bit more fun stuff. This has been overwhelming. Think about what our topic is. Financial planning after you separate or divorce. But something almost everybody overlooks, and it's super essential, is insurance needs. And I'm going to give this one to Carrie because we don't think about insurance until we need it, right? And when you're worried about, oh, can I get child support? Where am I going to live? Am I going to lose my home? Insurance is sort of the last thing on your mind, but it should also be at the top of your mind. So what do we need to know, Carrie?
Sure. And we talk to every client about insurance. That's just one of the things that we do. And it's really important when we're looking at support obligations. We want to make sure that there's life insurance in place for the payor. But I'm also now recommending to clients that both people have life insurance. So I think it's a little bit silly to say, well, I'm paying you support, so only I have to carry the life insurance to guarantee the support payments. But what happens if the other person passes away? Now the support payer now has that full-time obligation of the kids. I think that becomes a different thing. So I'm now calculating on both sides saying you guys should at least have a minimum of X number of dollars in insurance, keeping in mind that when it's for support, it's on a decreasing basis every single year. So we don't want somebody,
A lot of agreements don't say that. They should, but they don't.
Oh, they absolutely should. The other thing that agreement should be saying is that the client that holds the life insurance policy will authorize the other person to speak to the insurance agent so that they can get a copy showing that they are the named beneficiary of the policy.
So the new girlfriend or the new boyfriend isn't on the policy. Yep.
Exactly. So those sorts of things can be happening. The only time we really run into big issues, there's 2 times. One are health implications. So we really do need to find creative ways to put things into the separation agreement.
The thing is, somebody's not going to qualify because they're a smoker or they got cancer or whatever.
It's usually a health issue. Smokers will pay a higher premium, but when you're looking at somebody that's had a heart attack, somebody that's had a cancer diagnosis. By the way, it doesn't matter if your cancer diagnosis was for the most minor thing you could ever have. Like I had cancer of the hair, like something just completely that would never be life altering. They will turn around and say, you had cancer, you are not eligible, or you're not eligible for at least 5 years. So they'll put these parameters on. Oh, and then when you become eligible, your premiums are going to be through the roof. So sometimes the insurance premiums are just cost prohibitive. And we really need to be looking at that and saying, is it reasonable to say that somebody that has a $300 child support payment needs to pay $900 a month for life insurance to guarantee that payment? Is that reasonable? We need to find a different way in which to guarantee those payments.
Yeah, so much to unpack here. The other thing about health insurance, you want the existing coverage to continue potentially. If it's not, then that may increase the support claim. Oftentimes, there should be no changes in coverage until there's an agreement, and a judge may refuse to grant a divorce unless the provision has been made to deal with these things. So you want to keep that in the back of your mind as well.
If you're talking about health insurance benefits, meaning your orthodontic, your dental, your prescription glasses, what have you, most of those are done through our employers. Will have a benefits coverage package. What's really important for people going through this process to understand is that most likely the person that has the benefit has no control about when or how the other person they're insuring on it is removed. Because more and more companies are saying, you're separated, you no longer live together, they're no longer insured. And it has nothing to do with the person that has the benefit. It has to do with the insurance company. And it's something that we're seeing more and more of.
Darla, Michelle, you want any of this action?
No.
Insurance is so fun.
Okay, so let's talk about cost saving strategies, tips, and tricks. Housing, right? You want to consider downsizing your home. I know that sucks, but you may not be able to afford the same size home, especially given that it's 2024 and interest rates are high, and your mortgage payment might be different if you're coming out of a low interest mortgage and have to pay 3-4 points more. Consider shared living expenses, right? Sharing home with a friend, family member, another renter. Look at services you're using. Maybe cut unnecessary services. Look at energy efficient devices. Transportation. If you're living in the city, do you need a car? Maybe you can take transit or an Uber. Save money on that parking space you're renting. Evaluate your vehicle needs. Do you need to drive the newest model of the BMW or Mercedes on a lease that comes out every year? Maybe you can buy one that's 4 or 5 years old. Using public transit, we talked about that. Food and groceries. Lots of people, it's incredible what they spend eating out when we look at their budget. 4 or 5 times a night a week. Maybe you're going to start eating at home more often. That's not easy either because groceries are more expensive. Entertainment and leisure. Look at low cost activities, limit extravagant spending. Consider consolidating your debt. Is another plan that may reduce expense if you can get a lower interest rate. Clear out those credit cards. Negotiate with your creditors. We talked about insurance. Maybe reevaluate your insurance policy. If you only need $1 million insurance policy to cover your support obligations, maybe reduce your $3 million policy to $1 million, and that's going to save you some money. Savings, look at automatic savings, adjust your investments if necessary. Again, when we started, we're now living in 2 households, 2 expenses, 2 budgets. So you need to start looking at these things more closely. The tips from tonight: create a budget, right? Just creating a budget itself and getting an understanding where the money is going is going to be very helpful. And finally, seek professional advice. Somebody like Carrie, Michelle, Darla, they're going to help you understand all the nuances of these different things that we're talking about. And any money you spend on any of these professionals is going to go a long way in terms of helping savings. But tips and tricks, Darla, anything that you want to add to that?
I think with respect to legal fees, like, be responsive, don't delay. If Michelle and I have reached out to you, respond and provide us with what we're asking for, because if we have to keep following up with you over and over, that's going to cause, that's going to increase your legal fees.
Yeah. And if you do a kitchen table agreement, which is garbage or
Yeah.
unenforceable, and you have to come back and see a lawyer a year later to fix it, it's going to be more expensive than if you just gone into the lawyer and done it correctly the first time. Michelle, any tips?
Exactly. Yeah, I would agree. I think you kind of touched on it though, but adjusting your auto withdrawals for your savings. When you're looking at what you're contributing to RSPs, when you were a dual income family, you could probably contribute a little more, but now that you're a single income, you got to look at adjusting that. Ultimately, I mean, if you have kids, there's different expenses that are involved that now you may share the boatload of the lion's share of that. So yeah, like you said, reviewing your finances and adjusting your priorities, because that's going to take a big factor for sure.
Carrie, tips?
Yeah, I have a couple for you. First of all, take your accelerated mortgage, change it from being accelerated down to a monthly payment. That's a quick
Yes.
savings. You can do it at any time with your bank, but it's a great way to kind of free up some cash flow immediately. So not a bad way to go on there. The other thing I want people to keep in mind is that you're in three-year cycle, and most people don't want to hear that. They're like going, but we got this all done and it only took us 6 months or whatever. You're in a 3-year cycle no matter what. The year in which you separate is going to be a very hard year financially. You have costs that you didn't have before. You're having to reestablish your budgets and how you spend money. And it's incredibly difficult. That fear factor comes in hard in that first year. In year 2, once you have your agreement, you're working on, is this okay? You don't have a comfort level yet. So you're waiting on that comfort level. Year 3 is when you get comfortable and you realize you really can go to Starbucks on Saturday morning and get yourself a latte, and it's not going to be a bad thing. But it literally takes a 3-year process before you feel like you have breathing room. And it doesn't matter how big or how small your settlement is. I have clients that have had multiple $1 million settlements and they still feel this way. So it doesn't matter.
All right, so a couple more time. We usually go an hour. We're running a little bit late, but we're having lots of great Q&A. So let's bring this train into the station. A couple things I want to talk about: financial assistance and resources. Carrie, where can people go?
Honestly, if you're going through this process, you can talk to your lawyer, you can call our office. We're always happy to help people. If you're at the end and you've completed this and you're like going, I just got this settlement, I don't know what to do, you really do need to have a conversation with a certified financial planner. We have a bunch that we recommend. If you're not sure, give us a call. We're always happy to give good recommendations. If you don't know where to go to get a good mortgage or a mortgage broker, let us know. We're happy to refer. We keep a list of people that we have vetted over the years that we know will give good service. They don't rip their clients off, and they want to just make sure everybody's moving forward in a happy and productive way. So that would be my thing, making sure and talk to some family and friends. Some family and friends give you great advice. Sometimes though, you want an outsider kind of telling you what to do with your money. That's my view.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a lob ball here, Carrie. When and why should someone consult a financial planner such as yourself?
Honestly, I think whenever you're going through a separation and there's money involved. Oh, so pretty much all of them.
Sometimes people see you before they see a lawyer.
1,000%. We see that quite a bit, where the people are saying, I don't want to contact a lawyer yet, or I don't know what to do about this. We've run scenarios for people that are saying, especially now, Like right now with the economy the way it is, people are like going, we're not in a good place. We want to know what it would look like if we separated. And so we can kind of play with that a little bit for them. And people have said, you know what? Good. We're going to stick it out for a little while longer and we're going to try this route before we decide to actually pull the plug on our marriage. So just talk to us. If you want to find out more, always welcome to give my office a call. We do a 30-minute free consult. And we're happy to do those and answer any questions that people have. We won't get into substantive issues though, like we won't calculate support or do anything like that for you, but we'll give you a good idea and we'll answer some of your questions for you. Absolutely.
I think all of us can say for working with Fairmore for several years, our clients are super excited to be paying them less than they're paying us and get an equally excellent result. So thank you for all the hard work you've done for our clients, Carrie.
Oh, my
I
pleasure.
want to thank our audience for tuning into Family Law Now. There's going to be a brief survey that pops up at the end. Please take your time and provide your feedback. If you have topics for a future event, let us know. Because you stuck around, we've included the code to get your consultation with one of our lawyers. It's Steph1234. It's in the chat box. You can contact Nicole at my office. That's in the chat box as well. That's Nicole at russellalexander.com. She's our intake director. She will schedule your appointment. We ask that you schedule it this week because we got limited spots. If you don't get the code in this week, it's going to expire. So there's your incentive to take action. Most importantly, I want to thank our panelists. They've donated their time in the evening, interfering with their drinking time. So Darla, Michelle, Carrie, wonderful discussion tonight. Any final thoughts? Darla, you want to go first?
I appreciate Russ, you including me today. It was great, and I hope that everyone is able to at least get one or two tips from tonight's after hours.
Agreed. Michelle?
Yeah, thanks for having me join you. I mean, like I've touched a few times, divorce is an overwhelming time for clients. And so I just want to emphasize that we're here to walk through that journey with you guys and offer our knowledge to you and assistance.
Yeah. Carrie?
You know, it's always my pleasure to do the webinars with you guys. As always, I enjoy this so much. For the people that came tonight and stuck around to listen to us, you know, it's okay to ask a million questions. Don't be fearful of that. You know, it's okay to say, I don't know, and get all the answers. It's going to give you a better agreement in the end. A good informed client with good information will always make good decisions.
Yeah, get a plan and a strategy. You'll get through it.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, panelists. It was a great discussion, and everybody have a great evening.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.